Alright, so for those that have been paying attention and those that have been watching and actually, surprising to me, have been consistently asking me for the comparison between PowerA and Hori controller, this one is for y'all. And yes, I did say this in my previous videos that I was going to make a comparison video to how the both controllers feel to me and what I would recommend most and why. And I guess the question that all y'all are asking, which is the better controller? Let's just establish a couple things first and foremost. Both controllers are very similar in design with minor differences, and by minor I mean like you got one texture that feels similar to the original GameCube, how that would feel, and then you have one with a slight matted back finish, so it kind of feels like you have more of a grip on your stick. So then the next thing is, okay, well then how do the buttons feel? Well, comparing the both of them, the buttons pretty much feel almost identical. However, I will say that the C-sticks do feel quite different. The C-stick on the Hori controller feels more natural in comparison to the Nintendo official GameCube controller, whereas the PowerA, it feels like it's a little more up on the raised side. Again, it's all dependent on you and how you feel about it. But if you're asking me, I would kind of prefer how the C-stick is on here versus how the C-stick is on the PowerA. Now, let's talk about the shoulder button. So, one thing that I did naturally attract to on the PowerA is the simple fact that the shoulder buttons are more similar and identical to the original GameCube controllers, like this. They're not as wide, they're kind of smaller if you look at them. I don't know if you can really tell from me pointing this at the camera like so, but it does give it that original Nintendo GameCube feel to it, and they are a little bit smaller, so that means that once you press the button down, it takes less time to get your whole input in. Whereas on the Hori, it's more of a button, more like a nub, and it's silent, which I don't know how I feel about that. I like making a lot of noise, so when I don't hear noise, I'm just like, am I pressing the button? Like, realistically though, it is fine, and this has obviously the least time to hit the button down and get the full push on, so it's a slight difference, but a difference nonetheless. Now, one thing I do want to point out about the Hori one that I was not too fond of, and I will not lie to you guys, is that I don't know if they did this on purpose, but they kind of flopped their ZR and R where they're naturally supposed to be. If you were to look at a Pro controller, R is supposed to be on the bumper side of things, where ZR would be the shoulder button or the button behind it up here. On Hori's has it backwards. So when you go into Smash Brothers and you're trying to configure your buttons and you're trying to shield with the shoulder button and grab with the Z button, similar to how you would on a GameCube controller, you might find yourself grabbing when you want to shield and shield when you want to grab if you're not fixing your buttons prior. It's a simple fix. If you're just trying to plug and play, then obviously you will have to waste some time configuring your stuff, but then again, I'm sure everyone has their own weird controller configurations anyway. Speaking of plugging and play, this is the wireless PowerA controller. There is a wired version just like the Hori pad, but obviously I have been playtesting and utilizing this simply because PowerA did send this to me and I didn't have to spend any money on it. So I'm sure as far as the feel and the layout is pretty much all identical, all the same. Obviously, you don't have to worry about the syncing and desyncing onto the wireless. As far as the battery life goes on this, I've had it since I put out the video the last time, and I only just started using it once Smash came out. So you could do the math. I haven't even switched out the batteries yet. It's the same batteries that I put in. And for those that watched my entire stream when I was unlocking all the characters for the setups that I have, you guys did see that I was using this for the majority of the first portion of all three setups of unlocking Worth. And then I did switch over to the Hori controller to then get my feel for it. But honestly, for both controllers, I really didn't have too much of a bad time with either. There wasn't one that I was leaning more towards than the other, but I will also say that the one thing that they both have that I really love the most is this simple home feature and the share feature. Because for those that didn't already know, the new GameCube controllers, they don't have that at all. These are actually straight up GameCube controllers. You can use these on GameCubes, Wii's, and I'm sure if you have your GameCube adapter configured to your computer. You could even use it on there. With these are actual Switch controllers, and Smash Brothers reads them as Pro controllers. So with this is unique in itself because it only recognizes it as a GameCube controller because it's behind the times. Now with these, you can hit the home button, access the home button, and if you're trying to utilize the 10-minute cooldown trick or preventing the 10-minute cooldown, you know that you're gonna be going back and forth with going to the home screen, canceling the game, going back into the game, rinse and repeat, play a game, all that kind of stuff, just so that you can unlock your characters. With having this function, I knew that when I was going to be unlocking these characters, that I was definitely making myself forcibly, even if I didn't want to, which I did, so it kind of worked out and for the best of everyone. I knew that I was gonna use these so that way hitting the home button would be a lot more simpler than having to reach all the way to where my Switch is at, hit the home button, and go back, rinse, repeat, because there's a whole stretch thing, and then it becomes a workout, and it's like, I already go to the gym, like, I don't need to do all this extra exercise, okay? Like, let's stop. These guys right here, the functionalities worked flawlessly on both, and had no complaints there. Whereas, when I did finally start using this, and I did have to go to the home screen for whatever reason, it was a little annoying having to get up and then hit the home button every single time, just because I was trying to use the original GameCube controller. So which one do I prefer more? Looking at both of them, playing with both of them for pretty much an even amount of time, I will say that I do like having the wireless function on this controller for the PowerA over the Hori. Obviously, this is no offense to either companies or either controllers because, like I said, they're both really good. I did have a minor issue with them just having their R and ZR buttons flopped in comparison to like all the other controllers that we have on the Switch as it is right now. Then again, it's like I said, it's something that you could just map easily and quickly. I actually do like the C-stick a little bit better on the Hori pad versus the PowerA controller. And the PowerA controller's joystick does actually feel a little bit more similar to how the original GameCube controller does versus this stick. It's a lot more flat and it's a little bit bigger than the PowerA joystick. So with feeling already closest to the original GameCube controller, having the stick feel a lot similar, just the sleek design and the feel, and it looks like they just pretty much ripped the original controllers and then just put a bunch of wireless pieces in there and bam, they just created this. I just like having something where it's like wireless so I could just put it down. I don't have to worry about getting it all tangled and stuff like that. But that is just a preference. Not to say that I would officially say, oh, I would rather just use this all the time than use this. Because realistically, the more controllers that I have, which is actually a really good thing because I have friends sometimes that come over and play, whenever that is. I do have a bunch of different options, and having played with both of them for hours and hours and hours, I really don't mind, and it's not like it's an adaptive curve that I have to do to get used to using one over the other. But to end it all off, I will say this in this whole comparison, which one is better conversation. When competing and attending a tournament, I would probably have to go with Hori simply because you actually have a physical USB plug-in. Or am I saying that? When it comes to tournaments and when it comes to plugging in your stuff, it always comes down to what is best for business. I shouldn't say that. What the majority of the players are using. And being that a lot of people are still using their GameCube controllers, you can always most definitely find every setup to have a GameCube adapter with it. Why? Because there's 4 ports right there. With the majority of players using the GameCube controllers, that is something that is still here to this day. And for that reason, I don't even think that using anything with a USB end on it, and this is not even just directing my attention at Hori, this is directing my attention at any other company that has USB plug-in GameCube style controllers. That already eliminates ports. The Switch dock only has 3, 2 of them being on the outside, most typically used for the GameCube adapters, and then there's one in the back, but unfortunately the one in the back is only USB 2.0. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not really sure if the ones on the outside are actually 3.0 or not, but the GameCube adapter does utilize the 2 USB ends. And I know and I am aware that you don't need both of them, but I don't think that's something that people are going to risk trying out during an event, because God forbid there's ever some kind of misinput or a delay and a player senses that within a tournament. All it takes is one mishap to happen, especially if it's with a professional player, and they're just gonna gonna delete that idea altogether. They're gonna make sure both ends are plugged in, and that is the end of that story. And forget about wireless. I mean, I do know that there are people that use the Pro controllers, the official Nintendo ones, and that is a hassle all in itself, because of course you gotta sync it, and then you gotta make sure that if you're a TO, you're on top of your players and making sure they desync their controllers. And sometimes people get lazy and people get forgetful, and they don't, and then it's just like, thanks, dude. And then you gotta track down the person that actually, you know, unsynced their controller. So what am I trying to say? I'm saying that when you are playing competitive, you are most likely, probably, going to lean towards playing with this guy. Okay, now let's be real. Let's be real. Let's be real. I think that the new peripherals are good for home use, for casual use, for usage where you know that you won't really have to care or worry about not having enough USB ports. I know, and personally, I've already come across this problem. I had a room full of people. Wow. I had a room full of people, and we were all trying to have super fun playing a grand 8-player Smash. It was all these people trying to plug in their controllers, and guess what? The majority were all using their GameCube controllers. So what did we have to do? We had to plug in 2 adapters. Now, how did we do that? Knowing that you could get away with plugging in 1 USB into one of the ports, we plugged in one with 2, and then one that had 1 that stuck in the back, and thankfully it worked, and no one really complained. And then again, it was a mess of a match as it was. It was like more than freaking 6 people in there. Having said that, we did have an open USB slot, and someone had to use their USB controller, so we did have that. Now, if there was anyone else that was trying to play, they had to use a GameCube controller, or they had to use a wireless Pro controller, which at the time no one had. So they were kind of already defaulted to go back and plug in this, unless they they ever do officially release some kind of USB hub that acts the same as an adapter, and it becomes available for competitors of all types to not even have to worry about them not having a port open for you or whatever. Because imagine one day it's like you go to a tournament and it's just all GameCube adapters, and you're the one guy that uses USB and there's no USB ports left. You're kind of screwed. So it's just something to think about, and I know I've been rambling around for a pretty long time on this discussion, but it is something that's kind of important, and you guys did ask for my opinion, and that is my exact opinion. As far as the argument between the 2 controllers go, PowerA and Hori, it really comes down to being all preference based. Like I did say originally, I would probably lean more towards the wireless option because of the simple fact that it does have the closest GameCube style feel to it. Kind of reminds me of a Wavebird, even though the Wavebird had that thicker back in the back, because, you know, we like our backs thick. And the fact that it is wireless, don't have to worry about wires getting, you know, stuck around. Like, I'm a guy, you guys know me, I'm a content creator. I got wires everywhere. You guys should see what I'm looking at right now. I got wires on wires on wires. Yeah, and it never ends. And with Hori, it's just like, hey man, like, I love y'all, you know I do. So the winner will have to go to PowerA. And when it comes down to traveling and, you know, going to events, I definitely just stick with this. And as a matter of fact, that's exactly what happened when I attended NEC this most recent time. I went there with just this controller, and actually did bring my Hori one, but I did not use it in tournament. I only used this. And what do you know, GameCube adapters galore, plugged in, left, as the most simplest and easiest way to play your match, exit your match, and move right along with your life. I hope this helped, and I hope that you guys got something out of this. And if there are any other questions that you guys do have for me, please do not hesitate to ask, whether it be in the comments below or on my Twitter or in any of my DMs, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, what have you. Guys, y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, hit me up on Twitter, all that good stuff. All of the links in the description below so that you can follow and support wherever you can. Make sure to check out sugoishirts.com if you're liking my streetwear apparel. This is the anime Japanese inspired clothing line that proudly sponsors Uchi Games, so any purchase made off of their website directly helps me if you're using my code Uchi15, because not only you're helping me, you're helping yourself save money by saving that 15%. And that's it, guys. Take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Am I sensing a shipment on its way? It's from Hori. You know, I don't know exactly what's in here. You're serious? A wireless Pro controller. Stay tuned.